Hi, so I noticed that when I taught my lesson, it did not have any audio and I uploaded it to D2L and I noticed that I was supposed to email it to you. So, this is me redoing it. I'm really sorry. If you tried to view the one with no audio, it was a fluke on my computer. I really don't understand what happened, but, I have my lesson stuff on my iPad here. So, alrighty, I'm just gonna get going. So, hi, good morning, class. So today we are going to explore a very interesting question. I want you to think in your head about what happens to a plant or an animal when they grow. Has anybody ever seen a little tiny seed grow to a full plant? Or a little baby animal grow into a adult animal, or a egg hatch? Or has anybody seen like a baby sibling grow up? I want you to turn and talk with your partner about what you've noticed, if you've seen any of those things. If you haven't, that's okay. I want you guys to just talk with your partner about what you think happens to an organism when they grow up. What happens when they're growing? And students would talk and talk, and then I found this, sorry, because I have to redo it, everything is not here, but I found this YouTube video, sorry, it's not loading, but, it's a YouTube video by Inspire Education, about animal life cycles, and it goes through the life cycle of monkeys, birds, fish, bugs, literally just a ton of different animals. And I wanted to show students that video because it's engaging to watch a video. So then we would come back to it for a discussion. So what do you guys notice about how animals grow? Can we spot any patterns in a life cycle? Like, where does all animals start? Let's share a couple ideas. Does anybody have anything to share with what they think? Students would raise their hands. We would just have like a productive conversation. Alrighty, I am handing out a graphic organizer for us to fill out as we talk about the life cycle. Before we jump into the presentation, does anybody know the first stage of the life cycle without looking at the presentation? Does anybody know the first cycle of the first stage of the life cycle? This is what the graphic organizer would kind of look like. This is just a sketch that I've done. We would start up here at 1. I would talk about it. I'm sure that students could reach the conclusion that birth or a seed is where everything starts. So birth and seed. And this would be my whiteboard or my document camera or whatever. And students would fill out this graphic organizer as we go through the presentation on the life cycle of a butterfly. So then we would talk, what do we see happening during the growth phase? What happens to the butterfly during this growth phase? Does the butterfly start as a butterfly? Are they born as a butterfly? Students reply, no, they're not born as a butterfly. I want you guys to turn and talk with your partner. You guys can draw a picture, you can jot down your thoughts, whatever. I want you to talk about what happens to the butterfly during this growth phase and what happens to the butterfly during this reproduction phase. Why is reproduction so important for animals and plants? What changes are happening between these different phases of the life cycle? And can we think of any other plants and animals that go through similar life cycles? And these are those guiding questions that I would ask while students are having those small group discussions. And then we would kind of group back together for a discussion, and that would be the explain part. So we would talk about how the life cycle has 4 common stages across plants and animals. And this also relates to our previous lesson, which was the flow of energy, how energy flows from the sun to the plants. Animals eat the plants, so the energy goes from plants to animals, animals to animals, or humans. And so we would talk about how the 4 life cycles for every organism is going to be birth or seed. It's going to be that initial part of life. You're either born or you start as a seed. Then you are growing. Then you are in the reproduction phase. And then you are in the death phase. And after death, the plant or the animal, the energy is returned to the earth so the life cycle can continue. And that's just kind of getting the, tying in all of our lessons together. And also during this section of the explain portion, I would hand out a vocabulary note or a vocabulary handout. This would either be, a cut and paste activity or something like that. For the vocabulary words, life cycle, reproduction, growth, organism, and structures. Those are going to be our big vocabulary words for this unit. So let's come together as a class. Let's talk about what each one of these words means, and let's fill out the activity to glue into our vocabulary notebooks. And that would hopefully be where we would stop on day 1. If not, the vocabulary, the elaborate section would, or the explain section would be the first half of the second lesson or the last half of the first lesson. And then we would move to the elaborate phase, which would be, alrighty, so I have a project for everybody to do. We are going to be creating a life cycle model of any plant or animal you pick. Anyone is fine with me. It can be a fish, it can be a bird, it can be a dinosaur. It just has to be accurate. It has to be accurate. You have to research if you are not familiar with your plant or animal. And this would take about 2.5 science blocks. So for my elementary school, we get about 4 days per science lesson because we switch science to social studies each week, and we get 4 days a week for science or social studies. So this is about a 4-day lesson. So that lesson 1 is going to be that engage, the explore, and hopefully engage, explore, and explain. If not, explain is going to go here, and then we're going to do elaborate, and then we are going to move into our final part of evaluate. For the elaborate section, so for your model, you guys can make a presentation, you can make a diorama, you can write a song, you can write a paper, you can do whatever you need to just show me that you guys know what you're doing, and you understand the 4 main cycles of the the 4 main parts of the life cycle. What are they again? Birth, growth, reproduction, and death. Yes. Like I said, you can create any model you want. It just has to be accurate. It just has to be real. If you give me a model for a dinosaur and that dinosaur had a live birth, and we all know that dinosaurs are reptiles, so they came from eggs, and you show a live birth from your dinosaur, I will be very unhappy. I will be very frustrated. That is the one rule for the model. You can create anything you want, but it has to be correct. And then after everybody is done completing their models, we are going to do a classroom walk, and you are going to fill out your notices and wonders sheet in your science notebook. In your notices, you are going to walk around, and if you notice that this model is really well done and you really like the materials they used, that's what you put in your notice. I noticed that they did a great job. I noticed that they did a really good job for their growth, but I don't think that their reproduction, the reproduction section is right. You can put that in your notice. In your wonders, this is going to be questions you have. So if you're walking around and you're looking at a model and you're like, I don't know what animal this is. What animal is this person's model? That's what you put in your wonders. Your notices are your observations. Your wonders are your questions. So I want you guys to, during your classroom walk, fill out your notices and your wonders, your observations and your questions. Then after that, it's going to be about 10 minutes. We're going to do that. We're going to all come back together, and you guys can ask me anything. You guys can ask me any question you had. You can comment on your observations. We're just going to talk about it, and we're going to try to understand life cycles just a little bit better before we finish up this lesson. If you finish your model early, what can you do? It is not going to be read or do one of your online programs. If you complete your model early, I want you to come to me. I have an activity for you. You and a partner are going to complete a drawing of an organism, and you're going to label the structures for a life cycle stage that that animal or plant uses to survive. So during growth, we know that certain animals will have less colors, so they're less easy to be seen when they're a baby. That could be a structure that you comment on and label in this activity. Then I want you to complete your Venn diagram, comparing and contrasting with a partner on your guys' models. And that is only if you finish early. This is not a requirement. If you finish early, that is what you will be doing. Come to me. I'm out of time, but basically that's an overview of the 5E model of my lesson and how I would kind of go over that. I tried to include some of my resources, but I obviously don't have official resources because those usually come from curriculum or from the school. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching my lesson. And I hope it was kind of easy to follow. Obviously, I only had 10 minutes, so yeah, in a, full 35-40 minute block or whatever, I would have a lot more elaboration, a lot more resources to show and to use and hand out and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.